talk about and celebrate his life and the things that he's done in his life that more than likely inspired a lot of us to be here, right? And when we were going through this, unfortunately, of course, a lot of you know that my family, we all got sick, we caught a virus, and we wanted to do something quicker during the week, but that was going to be hard if none of us are going to be there. So what we wanted to do is make sure that we got it out this week and we could, and you know, to celebrate a really iconic but an also great man. For this week, you know, hearing like a lot of tough news.
What is your favorite Marvel comic?
Iron Man Volume 1.
Is very small. There's not a lot of celebrities in this comic book world, right? So whatever celebrities we have, the artists, the writers, the colorists, the letters, the editors, the publishers, that's a real small community. But it's been able to blow up what pop culture is and the name Comic-Con, right? So remembering guys like that, but what I want to do is just touch on Stan Lee. And Monday, when we were just lying in bed and we are just sick, we're just awful. I just remember my wife looking at me, and she has like a concern, and I'm looking down at Jedi, and I'm like, okay, you know, he's you know, breathing. It's not Jedi, and she just looks at me and she goes, "Stand died." And for what felt like 5 minutes, but was more like 5 seconds, I couldn't believe it. You knew it was coming. We all did. But it's still something that you can't believe because he was that large of a person. And what came out was a lot of memories, and I shared one on Facebook when I was able to share with you guys about a song he sang. And if you're not on my Facebook, it was a story I shared in 2014. We were in New York City, and I'm taking care of Stan. All his handlers, they had a long day. They went to go eat. And Stan is just like excited. He wants to, I forgot what Marvel movie had just came out, and he was trying to get it on the TV. So we were like trying to get like some kind of pay-per-view or something going on. And I think it was Thor. So we were trying to get it in his room, and we were just hanging out. And Stan was just sitting there, and at the time, of course, I wasn't married and I didn't have a girlfriend. And he looked at me and he's like, Apple, do you have a, you know, do you have a special lady? And I was like, no, Stan. And he was like, you want to hear a song that you sing to a special lady? And I was like, yeah. So I thought he was gonna play, because if you knew Stan, that's the way he was. He sang a song, and it was very sweet. You could tell it was like from like the 20s or 30s, and he sang about looking at a girl, always being fond of her, looking at her outside her house, looking at her from school, and just wanting to hold her hand. And I thought, man, you know, those songs, they don't, they don't have those kind of lyrics now. And I said, Stan, I never heard that song. I was like, I said, who did it? And he looked at me and he's like, oh, Apple, they don't sing songs like that anymore. And, you know, I was feeling sad, and I was like, you know, if you knew Stan, he had this great romance with his wife for so long. And it's just one of those things that I think for all men, when you're married, you want to have what Stan and Joanne had. Joan, sorry. But I said, very, very serious and caring, and I said, do you sing that to Joan? And Stan looked at me and said, nah, she hates when I sing. So I was like, oh, there goes Stan right there. I think another story I'll share with at Alamo City, the third year that he came, was when we had Tim Duncan's Punisher car, right? And so you go back and look at those pictures. I've known Stan for quite a while, so I've ran up and down with him in San Diego, New York Comic Con, a lot of places with Stan to know how Stan is. And no matter who you are, Stan will probably outwalk you. That's the way he was. Like, he got down and he wanted to walk. And that was Stan Lee. So I always told him, I said, look, we're going to take your car. I don't like Stan walking from the Hyatt to the convention center. Even though it's connected, I'd rather have him come in a car. And Max, which is a great friend, was his handler. And he says, Stan's not going to go in the car. And I was like, I said, Max, I need him in the car. And he goes, I'll tell him. So we're waiting to open up the show. We open up the show, and I always tell our guests to get there either within that hour that we after we open our doors, so that way we can get everybody in. When it's time to open, and some guests will take that and just wait. Well, with Stan, I always say, you know what you're going to get, but you don't know what to expect. So when my phone rings, and I know I told him, I said, hey, before you go to your table, Tim Duncan did this awesome car for the Punisher. Let's go take some pictures and things like that. And I said, just come in from the dock area. We're going to have a car ready and waiting for you. And so I get a call, and it's Max, and he's like, hey, Apple, Stan's on his way. And I was like, oh, okay, you guys are in the car? And he's like, no, he's walking. And I was like, oh my God, Stan. So it became a thing between, because of his age, no con owner wanted to be the show where an icon left. It's your worst fear of having a guest like that, right? So, and especially for Stan because of the relationship part, being close with him in his camp. And so he's walking, and he comes right in, and he comes right to the car, and I can hear him panting. So if you ever see video, Stan never panted, right? A lot of people didn't even know that he was just sick like the week before. So it's something that he was not going to talk about. It was something like he was not going to cancel. Like, that wasn't Stanley. He's not going to cancel. He's going to be there. So when he came in, I could hear him like, and I was like, I never heard that from Stan before. And I'm like this, and we're taking a picture, and I lean over, and then I'm letting the guys from Blackjack do their pictures and everything. And I go to his team, and I was like, hey, Stan's pantsing. And they were like, yeah, he's probably not over it. And I was like, well, I'm gonna need to get him in a cart. And I said, I can't have him walk like that. And he's like, Stan's not gonna go in a cart out. And I was like, I'm gonna need him to get in a cart. And so I make the call and to get a motorized cart. So one of the only times that you'll ever see Stan that was in a motorized cart. And so I parked it behind where he was signing, and the team called me over and they were like, hey, Al, we're not gonna tell Stan, you gotta tell him. And I was like, he's gonna ask, what is that thing doing there? And he's gonna get mad. And so, so I already had a great relationship with Stan, like I said. So when he was getting done signing, he was getting ready to go to photo ops. I stood right there and I'm waiting for him to come down. And I looked at him and he looks at the cart and he's like, Apple, I'm not getting in that. I was like, Stan, I said, hey, you were just sick last week. You're panting. I was like, I don't want anything to happen to you. Please get in the cart. And he's like, Apple, I'm not getting in the cart. And I said, Stan, please get in the cart. And all his team is standing like far back, right? So they're like, this is between Apple and Stan. And I said, Stan, you're not going down on my show. I need you to get in the cart. And he's just like looking at me. And I was like, Stan, I know you don't want anybody taking pictures of you and anything. You're in your 90s. Nobody's gonna be mad at you for riding a cart. And he's just like looking, I'm not getting in the cart. I said, Stan, I need you to get in the cart. And this is going on for like a whole 2 minutes. And I'm like, Stan, please get on the cart and let's go to photo ops. And he goes like, I can walk there. And I'm like, I said, Stan, I said, do you want to make money here at Alamo City Comic Con? I'm gonna need you to get in the cart. He hops in and says, okay, how does this thing go?
Which team do you want to be in the Marvel Universe?
Personally, I would love to be part of the X-Men team, just because they're flipping awesome. I didn't curse.
What is your favorite Marvel character?
My favorite Marvel character would probably have to be Spider-Man. One of the, obviously super associated with Stan Lee and all that. But growing up, my favorite character was Superman. But I was big, I guess, back in the 90s deal where, you know, the video games were coming out and all the cartoons. So I got to watch a bunch of the X-Men and Spider-Man, things like that. So seeing that Spider-Man was really kind of super similar to Superman, the reporter job and, you know, the dual identities and having the love life and things like that. So that was a really big, I think, part for me even today, buying the comic books, going to watch the movies like Spider-Man Homecoming and the new Spider-Man game for the PS4. So it's one of those things that's been with me for a long time, and I think it's really embedded itself into the culture. But yeah, Spider-Man, I guess, sorry, that was a big, long answer of the for the question. But yeah, Spider-Man was always my, I think, my guy for sure.
Awesome.
You ready?
Who's your favorite Marvel character?
What was the question? I'm just kidding. I'm just adding to the video. This is like a B-roll now.
B-roll now?
Yeah, B-roll. Favorite Marvel character is probably Spider-Man. I know it's like super like everyone's favorite, but I think he just really goes through a lot of real shit. Like, and that's like he may have superpowers, but nonetheless, like no matter how awesome things go, like he is so true and loyal to like not taking money and just being a really like good citizen that his life sucks because of it. You know, he is I don't know, to me like iconic in that sense. You know, where like I don't know. He deals with a lot of personal things, and no matter like how often something good may be happening for him, like in the real world, it just always goes to crap. And I feel like I can relate to that all the time. You know, his girlfriends always die. Like, you know, it doesn't. I mean, it's just terrible. You know, to see what he has to go through, but it just seems most relatable. You know, yeah.
Who's your favorite comic book character?
Gosh, from Marvel?
From Marvel.
From Marvel. It's hard to pick just one, but I think as anyone who grew up on a lot of this stuff, Spider-Man was probably the first one. Mainly because, well, I grew up watching the old Electric Company cartoons and shows and stuff like that. And Spider-Man was the first one, but as later on, as years went in, of course I got into Star Wars. Of course, that was still a part of the Marvel brand. And even G.I. Joe and all these things afterwards. But later on, I guess as I grew older, I mean, I became more of a DC guy, but later on, in these past few years, especially after the movies came out, I was like, you know what, Wolverine's cool, but the one I still like is obviously Cap, because of course everybody may call him the Boy Scout, but it's his ability to, no matter what the odds are, keeps going, will not give up. If there's a chance somehow of winning, he's going to take it. And of course, like I said, everybody would call him the Boy Scout, but when he was there in World War II, so he's seen his share of crap.
I mean, just a lot of memories, a lot of talks that I had with Stan and about comic books and what he thought, because whatever he talked about, it was like being a sponge and just trying to take it in, because that man did something that only Walt Disney has done. And you learn to appreciate someone like that. And yeah, Stan was a good guy. But not to take up a lot of people's time, but